I stood in the parking lot of Canoe Restaurant, looking up at the glass tower that housed Toronto's most exclusive dining room on the 54th floor. My 1987 Chevy pickup truck looked like a rusted dinosaur among the BMWs and Teslas. The valet gave me a look that said I had clearly taken a wrong turn somewhere between Scarborough and downtown. But I wasn't lost. I was exactly where my son Michael had invited me to be, though I was beginning to suspect it was a mistake. The invitation had come 3 weeks ago, a phone call, not a visit. Michael's voice had that crisp, efficient tone he used when checking items off a list. Dad, I'm being promoted to senior vice president. Vanessa is throwing a celebration dinner. Friday, 7 p.m. Canoe. It's black tie, but, he paused. I could hear him choosing his words carefully. Just wear something decent, okay? Maybe the suit from Mom's funeral? I told him I'd be there. I didn't tell him I hadn't worn a suit in 5 years. I didn't tell him that the man he thought was his retired, barely scraping by father owned more of his company than he could possibly imagine. Some lessons you can't teach with words. You have to let the student fail the test first. I handed my keys to the valet. He looked at the truck, then at me, then at the keys as if I was handing him a live grenade. Sir, are you sure you have the right venue? There's a Boston Pizza down on... I'm sure, I said, pressing a 20 into his hand. Take good care of her. She's older than you are, but she's got more heart than anything in this lot. The lobby was all marble and gold. My work boots squeaked against the polished floor. I had worn my cleanest flannel shirt, the red one Margaret had given me for our 40th anniversary. I had worn jeans that didn't have paint stains. I had even trimmed my beard. But standing in that lobby, surrounded by men in $1,000 suits and women in designer dresses, I looked exactly like what Michael feared I would look like. A blue-collar embarrassment. A reminder that the Mackenzie family fortune started in a tool shed behind a duplex in Etobicoke. The elevator ride to the 54th floor felt like ascending to a different planet. The couple sharing the elevator with me moved subtly away, as if poverty might be contagious. The woman whispered something to her husband. He looked at me, then away quickly. I caught the words, homeless and security. The elevator doors opened to reveal the restaurant. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of Toronto that looked like a jewelry box, tipped over on black velvet. Lake Ontario stretched dark and endless to the south. The CN Tower glowed green and white to the west. Inside, the dining room was packed with people who spent more on a bottle of wine than most Canadians earned in a week. I spotted Michael immediately. He was at the center of a large group, holding court near the windows. He was wearing a navy suit that probably cost $5,000. His hair was styled with that artfully messy look that takes 45 minutes and $80 to achieve. He was laughing, gesturing with a champagne flute, looking every inch the young executive on his way to the top. Beside him was Vanessa. My daughter-in-law had the kind of beauty that required maintenance. Blonde hair that wasn't quite blonde, skin that wasn't quite that smooth, teeth that weren't quite that white without professional intervention. She was wearing a dress that was mostly cutouts held together by strategic pieces of black fabric. Her laugh was loud and bright, designed to be heard across crowded rooms. I walked toward them. A server intercepted me, her smile professional but strained. "Sir, do you have a reservation?" "I'm with the Mackenzie party," I said. She looked doubtful, but checked her tablet. "Name?" "Robert Mackenzie." Her eyebrows went up. She looked at me again, reassessing. "Oh, yes. Of course. Right this way, Mr. Mackenzie." Michael saw me approaching. I watched his face cycle through surprise, embarrassment, and something close to horror. He said something to Vanessa. She turned, saw me, and her expression went cold. "Dad!" Michael's voice was too loud, too bright. He was performing for the audience. "You made it. I wasn't sure you'd—" He trailed off, his eyes traveling over my flannel shirt, my jeans, my work boots. "Wouldn't miss it for the world, son," I said. I held out my hand. He shook it quickly, his grip weak, distracted. Vanessa leaned in. She didn't hug me. She air-kissed near my cheek, her perfume sharp enough to peel paint. "Robert," she said, "so glad you could join us." Her tone suggested the opposite. "Michael said you might not be able to make it." Something about not having appropriate attire? I'm dressed fine, I said. Of course you are, she said. Her smile was a weapon. It's just that this is such a special occasion. Michael's colleagues are all here. Important people. The CEO, the board members. But I'm sure they'll understand that not everyone has the budget for formal wear. Michael winced. Vanessa. What? She turned innocent eyes on him. I'm just saying it's fine. Your father is who he is. We can't all afford Tom Ford. I looked at my son. He didn't defend me. He just stood there, trapped between his wife and his father, choosing silence. It was a choice. It was the wrong choice. Let me introduce you around, Dad, Michael said quickly, trying to move past the moment. He guided me toward the group. Everyone, this is my father, Robert Mackenzie. Dad, this is Derek Chen, our CFO. Patricia Lawson, board member. James Sterling, the CEO. They all shook my hand with varying degrees of discomfort. Derek's handshake was firm but brief. Patricia's was barely there. James looked me up and down with the expression of a man who had found a stray dog at a wedding. Robert, James said, Michael has mentioned you. You're the one who had the small contracting business, correct? Construction management, I said. I ran Mackenzie Financial Services before Michael took over. Oh? James's eyebrows went up. I thought Mackenzie Financial was Michael's creation. Michael jumped in quickly. Dad had a small operation, very local. I bought the name when I started the real company 5 years ago. Gave him a fair price for it. That was a lie. But I didn't correct him. Not yet. The dinner was torture. I was seated at the far end of the table, between a junior analyst who looked terrified of me and an empty chair that was apparently meant for someone's spouse who hadn't made it. Michael and Vanessa held court at the head of the table, surrounded by the executives and board members. I was placed with the support staff, the assistants, the plus ones, who didn't matter. The menu didn't have prices, which meant everything was expensive. I ordered the steak. The server asked how I wanted it cooked. Medium rare, I said. She wrote it down with a slight frown, as if surprised I knew what medium rare meant. The food came in tiny, artful portions. My steak was the size of a drink coaster, surrounded by 3 asparagus spears and a smear of sauce that looked like someone had sneezed on the plate. It cost $78. I knew because I had looked it up online before coming. I ate in silence while the rest of the table buzzed with conversation about markets, portfolios, and vacation homes. Vanessa told a long story about their recent trip to the Maldives. Michael showed photos on his phone. No one asked me anything. I was furniture. Expensive, embarrassing furniture that Michael was obligated to keep around out of a sense of duty. Then came the speeches. James stood up, tapping his champagne glass with a fork. The room quieted. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, we're here tonight to celebrate an exceptional achievement. Michael Mackenzie has, in just 5 years, transformed a small local operation into one of the most profitable divisions of our company. His vision, his drive, and his absolute commitment to excellence have earned him this promotion to senior vice president. The table applauded. Michael stood, accepting handshakes and congratulations. Vanessa beamed beside him, basking in reflected glory. I want to thank everyone, Michael said, his voice carrying easily across the room. He had taken public speaking courses. It showed. This achievement wasn't mine alone. It was built by all of us, working together. We're a team. We're a family. He paused, his eyes scanning the table. They landed on me for a fraction of a second, then moved on. A family that shares values, excellence, sophistication, a commitment to being the best. He raised his glass, to success, to the future, to leaving behind everything that holds us back and reaching for what we deserve. Everyone drank. I didn't. I was watching my son carefully. There was something in that speech, something about leaving things behind. It wasn't subtle. Then Vanessa stood. I want to add something, she said. Her voice was sweet but carried an edge. Michael has worked so hard to get here. He's overcome so many obstacles, including, she paused dramatically, including the burden of a past that doesn't match his future. Not everyone is fortunate enough to be born into privilege. Some of us have to claw our way up from nothing. She looked directly at me. The entire table followed her gaze. I felt 40 pairs of eyes land on my flannel shirt. Michael had to overcome the stigma of coming from, shall we say, humble beginnings, Vanessa continued. His father was a simple contractor. Blue-collar work. Honest work, I'm sure, but not exactly the pedigree that opens doors in this industry. Michael had to work twice as hard to prove he belonged here. He had to distance himself from that background to be taken seriously. Michael didn't stop her. He stood there, nodding slightly, as if this was a speech they had rehearsed. So, tonight, Vanessa said, raising her glass, we're not just celebrating a promotion. We're celebrating Michael's transformation. From the son of a tradesman to a leader in Canadian finance, to evolution, to leaving Deadweight behind. Deadweight. She had actually said it. She had called me Deadweight in a room full of people. And Michael, my son, the boy I had raised, the boy whose university tuition I had paid, whose first car I had bought, whose wedding I had funded, stood there and smiled. The table drank. I still didn't. I set my napkin on the table and stood up. The room went quiet. Michael's smile faltered. Dad, where are you? I need a word with the CEO, I said, privately. It'll just take a minute. James looked confused but intrigued. Of course. We can step into the private dining room. I walked toward the back of the restaurant. James followed. I could feel Michael's panic behind me, but I didn't turn around. In the private room, I closed the door. James looked at me with curiosity mixed with concern, probably wondering if he needed to call security. Mr. Sterling, I said, I need to inform you of a development regarding Mackenzie Financial Services. There's been a misrepresentation that needs to be corrected immediately. A misrepresentation? James frowned. What do you mean? I pulled out my phone. I opened an email from my lawyer, forwarded from this morning. I handed the phone to James. That's the corporate filing for Mackenzie Financial, the actual ownership structure. As you'll see, Michael Mackenzie owns 49% of the company. The controlling 51% is held by a numbered corporation. That numbered corporation is mine. James's face went through several expressions. Confusion, disbelief, shock, and finally, understanding. You're saying you own the majority of Mackenzie Financial? That's exactly what I'm saying. When Michael bought the company 5 years ago, I sold him a minority stake. The contract was very clear. He got operational control, but I retained ultimate ownership. The deal was that if he proved himself capable over 5 years, I would sell him the remaining shares for $1. If he didn't prove himself, I retained the right to resume control at any time. Why would you structure it that way? Because I wanted to see if my son could build something without using me as a crutch. I wanted to see if he could succeed on his own merit. I wanted to see what kind of man he would become when he thought I was no longer watching. James handed back my phone. He was looking at me differently now. Not as a stray dog at a wedding, but as a player he had underestimated. And what kind of man has he become, Mr. Mackenzie? The kind who calls his father Deadweight, I said. The kind who lies about building a company from scratch when he actually inherited it. The kind who would rather erase his history than honor it. So I'm exercising my right as majority shareholder. Effective immediately, I'm resuming operational control of Mackenzie Financial Services. Michael's employment is terminated. You're firing your own son? I'm firing an employee who has failed to demonstrate the integrity this position requires. The fact that he's my son makes it harder, not easier. But it doesn't change what needs to be done. James was quiet for a long moment. Robert, I have to say, this is highly irregular. We have contracts. We have obligations to stakeholders. If you're taking control, we need to discuss transition plans, due diligence, proper procedures, all of which will be handled by my legal team starting Monday morning, I said. For tonight, I just need you to know that the man you promoted an hour ago no longer works for you. The division he ran is under new management. Mine. I walked out of the private room. I walked back to the table where Michael was entertaining his colleagues with another anecdote. I walked straight up to him. The conversation died mid-sentence. Michael, I said. We need to talk. Outside. His face was pale. Dad, whatever you think you're doing, outside. Now. Vanessa put a hand on Michael's arm. You don't have to listen to him, honey. He's just a bitter old man trying to ruin your moment. I looked at her, really looked at her. Mrs. Mackenzie, you're going to want to be part of this conversation too. It concerns your financial future. I walked to the elevator. Behind me, I heard Michael's chair scrape back. I heard Vanessa's heels clicking on the marble floor. I heard whispered questions from the table. I didn't look back. In the elevator, the three of us stood in silence. Michael was breathing hard, his jaw clenched. Vanessa was glaring at me, her arms crossed. I watched the floor numbers descend. What the hell do you think you're doing? Michael finally exploded. You humiliated me in front of my colleagues, in front of the CEO. You ruined everything. I ruined nothing, I said calmly. I corrected a lie. You told everyone you built Mackenzie Financial from scratch. That's not true. I built it. You ran it. There's a difference. You sold it to me. 5 years ago. We had a contract. We did have a contract, I agreed. And you violated it. The elevator doors opened to the lobby. I walked out into the cool Toronto night. The valet saw me coming and jogged to get my truck. Michael and Vanessa followed me onto the sidewalk. I violated nothing, Michael said. I've run that company perfectly. Profits are up. Client retention is up. We're expanding into 3 new markets. You have no grounds to... Clause 17, I said. The integrity clause. The contract stated that you would maintain the highest ethical standards in all business dealings. You haven't. That's ridiculous. I've never been accused of any wrongdoing. My record is spotless. Your record is creative, I said. I've been watching, Michael. I've been watching for 5 years. I know about the offshore accounts. I know about the inflated expense reports. I know about the client funds you've been moving through shell corporations. It's not technically illegal, not yet, but it's damn close. And it's definitely unethical. Michael's face had gone from pale to gray. You've been spying on me? I've been auditing the company I own. There's a difference. And what I found disappointed me more than I can say. Vanessa stepped forward. How dare you? How dare you stand there and judge Michael? He's worked his ass off while you've been playing retired handyman. He's the one who built the client base. He's the one who brought in the big accounts. He's the reason the company is worth anything at all. The company is worth $12 million, I said. It was worth $800,000 when I gave it to Michael. He's grown it, I'll give him that. But not cleanly. Not honestly. And definitely not without my capital backing him up every step of the way. Your capital? Vanessa laughed. It was an ugly sound. You live in a tiny bungalow in Scarborough. You drive a truck that's old enough to vote. You wear clothes from Walmart. What capital? I looked at my son. Did you never wonder why the banks were so eager to extend credit to a startup run by a 30-year-old with no track record? Did you never question why investors lined up to back your projects? Did you think it was all based on your charm and your MBA from Rotman? Michael said nothing. Understanding was dawning slowly, like a ship emerging from fog. It was me, I said quietly. Every loan, every line of credit, every investor. They all came because I personally guaranteed them. My assets, my reputation, my name that you were so eager to distance yourself from. That's what built your empire, Michael. Not your vision, not your hustle, my collateral. Vanessa's mouth opened, then closed. She looked at Michael. Is that true? Michael didn't answer. That was answer enough. My truck pulled up. The valet got out, handing me the keys with considerably more respect than he had shown when I arrived. Thank you, sir. Beautiful truck. They don't make them like that anymore. No, I said. They don't. I looked at Michael one last time. You have until Monday to clear out your office. HR will be in touch regarding the return of company property. Your severance package will be generous. More generous than you deserve, because I'm not a cruel man. But your time at Mackenzie Financial is over. Dad, wait, Michael said. His voice had lost its polish. He sounded young, scared. Please, we can talk about this. We can fix this. We could have talked about it, I said. We could have fixed it, but you chose to call me Deadweight instead. You chose to erase me from your history instead of honoring it. You made your choice, Michael. Now you live with it. I climbed into my truck. I rolled down the window. Oh, and Vanessa, you might want to start looking for a job. That mortgage on your Forest Hill house, the one that's twice what you can afford, the bank is going to start asking questions when Michael's income disappears. Questions about where the down payment came from. Questions about whose accounts those payments have been coming out of. Company accounts that Michael shouldn't have had access to. Just a heads up. I drove away, watching them shrink in my rearview mirror. Michael standing on the sidewalk, his $5,000 suit suddenly looking like a costume. Vanessa in her cutout dress, her phone already in her hand, probably calling a lawyer. They looked small. They looked lost. They looked exactly like what they were, people who had built a house of cards and just watched someone pull out the foundation. The drive back to Scarborough was quiet. The streets of Toronto slipped past, bright and busy. I thought about Margaret. She died 8 years ago, cancer taking her faster than seemed fair. She used to worry about Michael. He's too ambitious, she would say. Not ambition for achievement, but ambition for appearance. He wants to look successful more than he wants to be successful. That's dangerous, Robert. That's hollow. She was right. She usually was. I pulled into the driveway of my bungalow. It was small, true, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, original kitchen from 1967, but it was paid off. And it sat on a lot that I'd bought 40 years ago for $20,000 that was now worth close to $2 million. The house beside it, also mine. I rented out. The duplex across the street, also mine. The small apartment building 3 blocks over, mine. I lived modestly because I liked it, because Margaret and I had grown up with nothing, and we never forgot what nothing felt like. Because I didn't need a Forest Hill mansion to know what I was worth. I knew my worth. It was the sum of every brick I'd laid, every project I'd completed, every promise I'd kept, every worker I'd paid fairly, every client I'd dealt with honestly. It was measured in handshakes that meant something, and a word that was as good as a contract. Michael didn't know his worth. He only knew his price. There's a difference. I walked inside. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I missed Margaret. I missed her laugh. I missed the way she could read my mind, the way she could tell me I was being stubborn and I would actually listen. I missed having a partner. My phone rang. I looked at the caller ID. Michael. I didn't answer. I let it ring through to voicemail. A minute later, another call. Another voicemail. Then 3 text messages in quick succession. Dad, please answer. We need to talk. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Please don't do this. I turned off my phone. The next morning, I woke up to find a car parked across the street. A BMW, Vanessa's car. She was sitting behind the wheel, engine running, staring at my house. I poured a cup of coffee and walked outside. I sat on my front step. I sipped my coffee. I waited. After 15 minutes, she got out of the car. She walked up my driveway. She was wearing yoga pants and a hoodie, her hair pulled back, her face scrubbed clean of makeup. She looked younger. She looked tired. She looked scared. Mr. Mackenzie, she said, I need to talk to you. About what? About Michael? About the company? About, she paused, about everything. I didn't invite her in. I just sat there on my front step, coffee in hand, waiting. She stood on the sidewalk, shifting her weight from foot to foot. He didn't mean what he said last night, she finally said. The deadweight thing. That was me. That was my idea. Michael didn't want to say it. I pushed him. I thought it would be funny. I thought it would help him fit in better with the executives. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Why are you apologizing? I asked. You don't care if you hurt me. I don't, she admitted. Not really. I mean, I don't dislike you, but I don't know you. You're just Michael's dad. But I care about Michael, and you're destroying him. I'm correcting him. You're firing him. You're humiliating him. You're taking away everything he's worked for. Everything I gave him, I corrected her. There's a difference. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said something surprising. You're right. You're absolutely right. Michael has been writing on your name, your money, your reputation. He's been pretending he did it himself. He's been lying. And I've been helping him lie because it made us look better. It made us feel better. It was easier to believe we were self-made than to admit we were gifted everything. I looked at her more carefully. Why are you telling me this? Because I did some research last night. After you left, I couldn't sleep. So I started looking into Mackenzie Financial Services. I looked into the corporate filings. I looked into the loan agreements. I looked into your personal holdings. Do you know what I found? I have a fair idea. You're worth over $30 million. She said it quietly, like saying it too loud would make it disappear. Maybe more. The property holdings alone are worth 20. The investments, the trusts, the pension funds. You're not a retired contractor. You're a real estate mogul who happens to know how to frame a house. I prefer to think of it the other way around, I said. I'm a contractor who happens to own real estate. Why? She asked. Why do you live like this? Why do you let people think you're poor? Why do you drive that truck and wear those clothes when you could afford anything you want? Because I already have everything I want, I said simply. This house has memories. That truck has never let me down. These clothes are comfortable. More money wouldn't make me happier. It would just make me different. And I like who I am. She sat down on the step next to me, uninvited. She stared at my tiny lawn, at my weathered fence, at my neighbor's kids playing hockey in the street. Michael doesn't like who he is, she said. That's the problem. He's ashamed of where he came from. He's ashamed of you. And I made it worse. I fed that shame because I'm ashamed too. I grew up in Oshawa. My dad worked at the GM plant. My mom was a hairdresser. We weren't poor, but we weren't rich. And I hated it. I hated the small town feeling. I hated the way people looked at us. So when I met Michael, this guy with ambition and plans and a company with a fancy name, I thought he was my ticket out. I pushed him to be bigger, better, richer. I pushed him to cut ties with anything that reminded him of being ordinary, including you. Why are you telling me this, Vanessa? Because last night, after you left, after Michael spent an hour on the phone with lawyers, after I realized we might lose the house and the car and everything we've bought on credit we don't actually have, I asked myself a question. I asked, what have we actually built? And the answer was nothing. We built nothing. We bought things. We performed success. But we didn't build anything real. You built something real. You built a company. You built a portfolio. You built a reputation that lasts 40 years, and we've been spitting on that for 5 years because we were too stupid and too proud to see it. I took a sip of my coffee. It had gone cold. What do you want, Vanessa? I asked. I want you to give Michael another chance. No. Please. He made a mistake. We both did. But he can learn. He can change. He's a good person under all the bullshit. Maybe, I said. But right now, the bullshit is too thick to see through. She stood up. She looked down at me, her eyes hard. What do you want from him? Groveling? He'll grovel. Apologies? He's sorry. What do you need to hear? I need to hear silence, I said. I need him to stop talking and start thinking. I need him to sit with what he's lost and figure out who he is when the props are gone, when the title is gone, when the office is gone, when the illusions are stripped away. Who is Michael Mackenzie? He doesn't know. He needs to find out. And if he does figure it out, then we'll talk, I said. But not before. She walked back to her car. She paused at the driver's door. You know the worst part? She called back. Michael's son, Tommy, your grandson. He worships you. He talks about Grandpa Robert all the time. About how you taught him to fix things. About how you took him fishing. About how you never talked down to him. Michael told him to stop mentioning you. He told Tommy that Grandpa wasn't important. That Grandpa was just an old man who didn't understand the modern world. And Tommy cried. He cried because you're his hero, and his dad told him, heroes don't matter. She got in her car. She drove away. I sat on my front step for a long time after that, staring at nothing, thinking about a little boy who thought I mattered. I thought about Tommy a lot over the next few days. He was 8 years old. Bright kid. Curious. He liked to take things apart to see how they worked. He reminded me of Michael at that age, before Michael learned to care what other people thought. On Wednesday, I got a call from my lawyer. Robert, we have a problem. Michael is contesting the termination. He's claiming the integrity clause is too vague to be enforceable. He's got a lawyer, a good one, and they're preparing to file an injunction to prevent you from taking control of Mackenzie Financial. Let him file, I said. Discovery will be interesting. Robert, if this goes to court, everything comes out. The offshore accounts, the expense irregularities. Michael could face criminal charges. Then he should have thought of that before calling me Deadweight. You're really willing to destroy your own son? I was quiet for a long moment. I'm willing to let him destroy himself if that's what he chooses. But I'm also giving him a chance to rebuild. That's more than he gave me. Friday afternoon, I got another call. This one was from a number I didn't recognize. I answered. A woman's voice, young and nervous. Mr. Mackenzie, this is Jennifer from Tommy's school. We have your grandson here in the office. He's asking to speak with you. His mother was supposed to pick him up an hour ago, but she hasn't arrived. We've called both parents multiple times. No answer. Tommy said you're his emergency contact. I was in the truck 5 minutes later. The school was in Forest Hill, 45 minutes from Scarborough, in Friday traffic. I made it in 30. I walked into the office to find Tommy sitting in a chair, his backpack at his feet, his eyes red from crying. Grandpa! He jumped up and ran to me. I caught him, lifting him up even though he was getting too big for that. He wrapped his arms around my neck and held on tight. Hey, buddy, I said. You okay? Mom and Dad had a big fight, he said into my shoulder. Mom was yelling about money. Dad was yelling about you. Then Mom left. She took a suitcase. Dad left too. He said he had to meet with lawyers. He said he'd pick me up, but he forgot. I looked at the school secretary. She looked sympathetic. We tried calling for over an hour. I was about to call Children's Aid when Tommy mentioned you. I'm taking him home with me, I said. I'll call his parents and sort this out. In the truck, Tommy was quiet. He stared out the window at the city, scrolling past. Finally, he said, Dad says you're trying to ruin his life. Your dad and I have a disagreement about business, I said carefully. It's complicated. He said you're kicking him out of his company. He said you're taking everything away from him. He said you hate him. I don't hate him, Tommy. Then why are you being mean to him? How do you explain to an 8-year-old that sometimes love looks like punishment? That sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let someone fail? I didn't have a good answer, so I told him the truth, as much as he could understand. Your dad did something wrong, I said. He lied about how he built his company. He lied about where his success came from. And when someone does something wrong, there have to be consequences. That's how we learn. Mom says you're just jealous because Dad is successful and you're not. What do you think, Tommy? He was quiet for a while. Then he said, I think you're the smartest person I know. You can fix anything. You built that treehouse in our backyard in one day. You taught me how to read a measuring tape. You know what every tool is called and what it does. You're not dumb. You're not unsuccessful. You're just quiet about it. That's very perceptive, buddy. Dad yells about how great he is all the time. You don't. But I think you're greater. I had to pull over. I had to stop the truck because my eyes were blurring and I couldn't see the road. I sat there on the shoulder of the DVP, gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe through the sudden tightness in my chest. Tommy put his small hand on my arm. Grandpa, are you okay? Yeah, buddy, I managed. I'm okay. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. We drove to my house. I called Michael 17 times. No answer. I called Vanessa. She answered on the 3rd ring. Her voice was sharp, defensive. What? I have Tommy. He was waiting at school for over an hour. No one picked him up. There was a long pause. Oh God. I forgot. I'm sorry. I was just so angry. Michael and I had a fight. I left. I met my mother's in Oshawa. I can't face that house right now. I can't face him. Where's Michael? I don't know. I don't care. He's your husband. And Tommy's father, he's a liar. He's a fraud. Everything I thought we had is built on your money. Did you know that? The house, the car, the vacations, all of it. We're drowning in debt, Robert. We owe $300,000 on credit cards. The mortgage is 2 months behind. Michael has been moving money around, robbing Peter to pay Paul, and it's all about to collapse. And I'm not going down with that ship. What about Tommy? What about him? He needs his mother. He needs a stable home. He needs parents who aren't screaming at each other. He needs... She stopped. I heard her crying. He needs better than us. Can you keep him tonight? Just tonight. I need to think. Of course. She hung up. I looked at Tommy. He was standing in my kitchen, looking small and lost. Am I staying here tonight? Looks like it, buddy. Is that okay? He nodded. This is my favorite place anyway. We ordered pizza. We watched a Leafs game. I let him stay up past his bedtime because bedtimes don't matter when your parents have forgotten you exist. We made a bed for him on the couch with blankets and pillows. He fell asleep during the third period. His head on my lap, his small body finally relaxed. I sat there in the dark, stroking his hair, thinking about the choices we make and the children who pay for them. Saturday morning, I woke up to find Tommy in my garage, examining my tools. He had laid them all out on the workbench, organizing them by type. Hammers with hammers, screwdrivers with screwdrivers, wrenches in order of size. What you doing, buddy? Learning, he said. You always say if you want to build something, you need to know your tools first. We spent the morning building a birdhouse. I let him measure. I let him mark the cuts. I guided his hands on the saw, teaching him to let the tool do the work. We drilled pilot holes. We drove screws. We sanded rough edges. By lunchtime, we had a birdhouse that was slightly crooked but completely functional. Tommy held it up, grinning with pride. I made this. You did. Can we put it in your backyard? It's your birdhouse. It goes wherever you want it to go. We hung it in the maple tree. Tommy stood back, admiring his work. Grandpa, can I ask you something? Anything. Why does Dad hate you? The question hit like a punch. He doesn't hate me, Tommy. He acts like he does. He never wants to visit you. He gets mad when Mom suggests inviting you to dinner. He talks about you like you're an embarrassment. Why? I sat down on the back step. Tommy sat next to me. I looked at the birdhouse swaying gently in the breeze. Your dad is ashamed, I said finally. Not of me, really. He's ashamed of where he came from. He grew up in a house like this, small, simple. He went to public school. He wore hand-me-downs. He worked part-time jobs to pay for university. And somewhere along the way, he started to believe that all of that was something to be ashamed of, that working with your hands is less valuable than working in an office, that being blue-collar is less important than being white-collar. He's wrong, but he doesn't know that yet. I don't think working with your hands is bad, Tommy said. I think it's cool. Me too, buddy. When I grow up, I want to build things like you, real things, not just spreadsheets and PowerPoints. Dad says those are more important, but I don't see how. You can't live in a PowerPoint. I laughed. I couldn't help it. No, you can't. So if Dad is ashamed of you, and you're awesome, does that mean Dad is wrong? That's exactly what it means. Tommy nodded, satisfied. That's what I thought. That afternoon, Michael finally called. His voice was rough, exhausted. Dad, I need to talk to you. Where have you been? Lawyer's office. Accountant's office. Bank. Trying to figure out how bad this is. It's bad, Dad. It's really bad. Vanessa left. She wants a divorce. The bank is calling in the mortgage. I have about 3 weeks before I lose the house. My lawyer says I don't have a case against you. The contract is airtight. I'm screwed. Are you calling to apologize or to ask for money? There was a long pause. Both? I'm not giving you money. Dad, please. I know I messed up. I know what I said was wrong. But I'm desperate. I have nowhere to go. I have no income. I have a son to support. Please. You have a son you forgot at school yesterday. Another pause. Tommy. Oh God. Is he okay? Where is he? He's with me. He's safe. He's building birdhouses and learning what tools are called. He's fine. I need to get him. I need to bring him home. What home, Michael? You just said you're losing the house. I need my son, Dad. Your son needs stability. Your son needs parents who show up. Your son needs to know he's more important than appearances. Can you give him that right now? Michael was crying. I could hear it in his breathing, in the silences between words. No, I can't. I can't give him anything right now. Then let me keep him for a while. Let him stay here while you figure out your life. Let him have one stable thing while everything else is falling apart. For how long? As long as it takes. I'm his father. I have rights. You're his father. Act like it. Do what's best for him instead of what's convenient for you. He hung up. I stood there holding the phone, feeling older than I had in years. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. I wasn't supposed to be raising my grandson at 63. Michael wasn't supposed to be broken at 34. Families weren't supposed to shatter like this. But sometimes you don't get what's supposed to happen. You get what does happen, and you deal with it. Tommy stayed with me. Days turned into weeks. Vanessa filed for divorce. Michael moved into a basement apartment in Parkdale. He got a job at a mid-sized accounting firm, not as a VP, not even as a manager, but as a senior analyst. His income dropped by 80%. He sold his BMW and bought a used Honda. He started wearing off the rack suits from Moore's. He didn't call. He didn't visit. I think the shame was too thick. 3 months after that dinner at Canoe, I got a letter. It was handwritten, on notebook paper, not expensive stationery. It said, "Dad, I'm not ready to see you yet. I'm not ready to face you. Every time I think about what I said, what I did, I want to disappear. I destroyed everything. I lost my wife. I lost my house. I lost my company. I lost my son's respect. I almost lost Tommy entirely. And it's all because I was so desperate to be something I'm not that I rejected the thing I should have been proud of. I rejected you. I rejected my own history. I tried to erase the foundation I was built on, and I'm paying for it now. But I want you to know something. Every day, I think about the birdhouse. Tommy calls me sometimes, and he tells me about the things you're teaching him. How to change a tire, how to fix a leaky faucet, how to build a bookshelf. And I realize you taught me all those things too. I just stopped listening. I stopped valuing them. I thought being successful meant working in a glass tower. I thought being important meant having a title. I thought being somebody meant people knowing your name. I was wrong. Being somebody means being someone worth knowing. Being someone who keeps their word. Being someone who shows up. You've always been that person. I'm trying to become that person. I'm not there yet, but I'm trying. Thank you for taking care of Tommy. Thank you for being the man I should have been. I'm sorry I'm not yet. But maybe someday. Michael. I read that letter 17 times. I folded it carefully. I put it in the drawer of my bedside table, next to the photo of Margaret. 2 months later, on a Saturday morning, I was in the garage with Tommy. We were rebuilding a lawnmower engine. Tommy was elbow deep in grease, figuring out how a carburetor worked. There was a knock at the open garage door. I looked up. Michael was standing there. He was wearing jeans. They weren't designer jeans. They were Levis from Canadian Tire. He was wearing a t-shirt that said Parkdale Rec Hockey League. He had a beard, not sculpted, just grown in. He looked tired. He looked thin. He looked real. "Hi, Dad," he said. Tommy looked up. "Dad!" He started to run to him, then stopped, suddenly uncertain. Michael had been mostly absent for 5 months. The relationship was fragile. "Hey, Tommy," Michael said. His voice cracked. "I missed you, buddy." "I missed you too." They stood there, awkward, not sure how to bridge the gap. Then Michael said, "What are you guys working on?" "Lawnmower engine," Tommy said. "The carburetor was gummed up. Grandpa is teaching me how to clean it. Can I help?" Tommy looked at me. I nodded. Tommy looked at Michael. "Do you know how carburetors work?" "Not really," Michael admitted. "I used to. Grandpa taught me. But I forgot." "I can teach you," Tommy said. "Grandpa taught me. Now I'll teach you." Michael came into the garage. He stood next to his son. Tommy handed him a wrench. "This is a 10 millimeters. You need it to loosen this bolt." They worked together. Michael followed Tommy's instructions. I stood back, watching. After a while, I went inside to make coffee. When I came back out, Michael was sitting on a bucket, his hands black with grease, listening to Tommy explain how a 2-stroke engine differed from a 4-stroke. Michael was nodding, asking questions, genuinely interested. Or maybe just genuinely grateful. to be included. Coffee? I offered. Michael looked up. Thanks, Dad. We stood there, the three of us, in a garage that smelled of oil and old wood. Michael took a sip of coffee. This place hasn't changed, he said. Same workbench, same tools, same coffee maker that's older than I am. If it works, why replace it? I'm starting to understand that philosophy, he said. He looked at me. I'm starting to understand a lot of things. Good. I'm not asking for my job back. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve any of that. I just wanted to see Tommy, and I wanted to say, he stopped. He took a breath. I wanted to say you were right, about everything, about me, about what I was doing, about who I was becoming. You were right to stop me. You were right to fire me. You were right to make me lose everything, because losing everything was the only way I could find what actually mattered. And what matters? He looked at Tommy, who was reassembling the carburetor with careful concentration. That, family, legacy, teaching my son how to fix things instead of just paying someone else to do it. Being someone worth respecting instead of just demanding respect because of a title. Building something real instead of just looking successful. You taught me that once. I forgot. I'm remembering now. I didn't say anything. I just drank my coffee. Michael stood up. I should go. I just wanted to stop by. I'll see you, Tommy. Maybe next weekend? Dad. Wait, I said. He turned. Mackenzie Financial needs a consultant. Someone who knows the operations inside and out. Someone who can help train the new management team. Part-time. Contract basis. Pays $60,000 a year. You interested? His eyes widened. Are you serious? It's not your old job. It's not glamorous. You'd be teaching, not leading. You'd be support staff, not executive. You'd have to check your ego at the door and actually help people instead of impressing them. Can you do that? Yes, he said immediately. Yes, I can do that. Then you start Monday, 9 a.m. Don't be late. He nodded. He looked like he wanted to say more. He looked like he wanted to hug me, but he didn't. He just said, "Thank you, Dad. Don't thank me yet. You haven't earned it back. You've just earned a chance to try. That's all I need," he said. "Just a chance." He left. Tommy looked up at me. Is Dad going to be okay? I think so, buddy. I think he's going to be just fine. Are you going to forgive him? Eventually. But first, he has to forgive himself. That's the hard part. Tommy nodded sagely, like he understood. Maybe he did. Kids understand more than we give them credit for. 6 months later, Michael moved out of the basement apartment and into a small 2-bedroom house in Leslieville. It wasn't Forest Hill, but it was his, truly his, paid for with money he earned. Tommy spent weekends there. They built things together, a deck, a fence, a workbench in the garage. Vanessa remarried, a dentist from Oakville. She saw Tommy every other weekend, when it fit her schedule. Michael never spoke badly about her, not once. He just showed up for his son. 18 months after that night at Canoe, Michael walked into my office at Mackenzie Financial. He sat down across from me. "Dad, I want to buy the company back." "You can't afford it." "I know, but I'm willing to work for it. Same deal you gave me before. Let me earn a stake. Let me prove I can run it right this time. 5 years. If I do it with integrity, if I rebuild my reputation, if I show you I've learned, then sell me the rest for $1. If I fail, you keep control." Why should I trust you? Because I'm not the same person I was. Because I spent 18 months learning what matters. Because my son looks up to me again, and I'm not going to lose that. Because he stopped. Because you're my dad, and I'm asking you to believe in me one more time. I looked at my son. He'd aged. His hair had more gray. His face had more lines. But his eyes were clear. They weren't calculating. They weren't performing. They were honest. "Okay," I said. "One more chance. Don't waste it." "I won't," he said. "I promise." He kept that promise. 5 years later, I signed over Mackenzie Financial Services to Michael for $1. This time, he earned it. This time, He built something real. This time, he did it with his name on it, honest and proud. We never spoke about that night at Canoe again. We didn't need to. Some lessons don't need to be discussed. They just need to be learned. Tommy is 16 now. He wants to study engineering. He wants to build bridges. Real ones, not metaphorical ones. He told me the other day that he wants to put a plaque on the first bridge he designs. He wants it to say, "Built on the foundation of those who came before." I told him that's a fine thing to do. I told him his grandfather would be proud. He looked at me and said, "I was talking about you, Grandpa." Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes the best revenge is just living long enough to see the people who hurt you realize what they almost lost. Sometimes the best revenge is being there when they finally understand that worth isn't measured in titles or addresses or the cost of your suit. Sometimes the best revenge is just being worth knowing, worth respecting, worth calling when you need help building a birdhouse. That's enough. That's everything.